to the third episode on the webinar series 1 on research in commerce and social science. In the first two webinar series episodes, we have discussed research in commerce and social science. JJ sir gave you a complete picture on what kind of research we can do in social science, how it is different from pure or natural science. The difference was highlighted, and he gave a lot of information on the challenges or issues that are there in commerce and social science. He also thrown light on how to overcome those challenges. And the second episode, which was handled by Dr. B. Vijay Kumar sir, he gave an overview on how to identify problem in research problem identification, which is very very important, especially for commerce and social science. We have to identify what you want to do, or what type of research, or the objectives with which you want to direct your entire research. So he gave ample ideas to identify and land upon doing the right type of research depending upon the circumstance. And today we have Dr. H.D. Sharma sir, who is an expert in uh, giving information on research design, or directing the students on doing the right type of research in commerce and social science. Sir will address us on the topic relevance of statistical analysis in research. With this small prelude to our session, I request Vijay Narayanan sir to introduce Dr. HDS sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. It is happy and it's my privilege to introduce Dr. Haridayal Sharma, who works as an assistant professor in the PG and Research Department of Commerce at DG Vaishnav. Sarah's got his Doctor of Philosophy from Aragappa University. I think we had an interaction, and he is the PhD candidate from Dr. Selvam, who is the Vice Chancellor of Bharathidasan University now. A very noble person, and he comes from that clan. And Sarah's also got his MCom and MPhil from the University of Madras, and he has got his MBA from IGNOU. And Sarah's also cleared his MFM and Tamil Nadu State Eligibility Test for lecturership. And Dr. HDS has a very rich experience of 2 decades in teaching both UG as well as the PG. And Sar has 36 papers to his credit, which includes various journal publications, research publications, and the conference publications with ISSN and ISBN numbers. And apart from that, Sar has also completed 1 UGC minor research project between August 2012 and April 2014. Besides that, 4 MPhil scholars have been awarded under his guidance, and currently Sar is guiding 4 PhD scholars and 1 MPhil scholar. And I'm very happy to welcome you, sir. And today, Sir will be giving us a topic on the relevance of statistical techniques. Probably, I think he's the right person to address on the said topic. Sir, over to you. Thank you.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. VN, for this generous introduction, rather. And so, first thing first, let me first thank our management for giving us this encouragement to pursue on these extracurricular activities. Of course, our principal, always full of inputs and suggestions. Of course, my HOD, he was also my teacher, Dr. J. Jayashankar, and my evening college HOD, Dr. S. Seshadrinathan. So I really thank all of them from the bottom of my heart, and of course the organizers and my colleagues, Dr. R. Sundari and Dr. VN, right? So without delaying further, straight away we will go to the presentation. So I'll just share the screen. Tell me whether it's visible or... No. Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Perfect.
Right. So, yeah, just a minute. Right. So, the topic that we will be discussing today is the relevance of statistical analysis and social science research. Right? Don't worry, I will not bore as when Dr. Sundari or she informed me regarding this. I told her that don't worry, I won't be talking about complicated formulas and all the numbers and number crunching and all those things. Rather, like being a webinar is a combination. It's neither too formal nor it is a kind of informal thing. It is a kind of semi-formal thing wherein we discuss the discipline in an informal way. So what I will do, I will just touch upon the area without going in depth about the specific tools. Of course, we'll go in depth about the philosophy of analysis, but I will not go or not dwell much into the formula part and all those things. Of course, students have anything to share or discuss, they are welcome at the end, right? So the topic is relevance of statistical analysis in social science research. Now you might wonder why I have taken social science research. The reason being our commerce, management, business or economics, these are all grouped under social science research. And whatever we do does have an impact on society. So we cannot work in isolation. So I thought better I group it under this, right? So this is the topic. Let us move on. Right. So first, let us see statistics. Very loosely as well as very specifically, this term statistics is used. Right from basic numbers or figures till what we say an organized way of looking at the data. For example, some people consider it as simple as certain numbers, certain data, figure. Then if you go up into the ladder, they talk about averages and all. Finally, if you go into the specific domain, they talk about measurement and its impact on society, techniques, whatnot, all those things, right? There is another way of, or a perfect definition is given by, Cesarist. And the definition is statistics is aggregate of facts affected to the marked extent by multiplicity of causes, numerically expressed, enumerated or estimated according to reasonable standards of accuracy, collected in a systematic manner in a predetermined purpose with that purpose, and placed in relation to each other. Why I have taken, generally definitions are confusing. Rather than clarifying the concept, they confuse. So that is why here and there, if you see, I have just highlighted certain words. So if we concentrate on those aspects, obviously, we get some meaning or grasp of the concept of statistics. For example, it is just, it is an aggregation of facts. Facts can be in the form of numbers, data, figures, those things. Multiplicity of causes. See, again, there is a myth in later on we will see. In social science, things may come from any direction. So there are multiplicity of factors that act and react. We need to take into account. Of course, numerically expressed. That is what quantitative analysis is all about. Anything that can be expressed in numbers alone, we can proceed further. Enumerated or estimated. Of course, the ultimate aim is to estimate, right? And with a standard of accuracy in a systematic manner with certain predetermined purpose and put in relation to certain aspect. So I thought this will give an tentative broad understanding of the concept of statistics. Right, now we'll move on. Statistical analysis. So that was what of statistics. This is how of statistics. Don't worry, just I have highlighted the broad areas. Broadly, we can classify the analysis into 3 levels: univariate, bivariate, multivariate. What do you mean by univariate? When we talk of one particular, from one angle, for example, centrality of data, when we are looking at, it's basically a univariate analysis. When we are checking the dispersion of the distribution, we are talking about univariate analysis. When we are studying the nature of our distribution, for example, whether it is normal, skewed, or what kind of distribution it is, that when we do that analysis, that can be grouped into univariate analysis. What are all the techniques used? Mean, median, mode, range, standard deviations, skewness, kurtosis, so on and so forth, right? So if you notice, only one aspect, or one variable is involved, and we are studying in depth about that particular thing. So that is univariate. Okay. Bivariate, the next level. For example, when you are having centrality of two data, when you are trying to study the relationship between them, so more than one or two, rather, to be specific in bivariate, when you are studying the relationship, when you are studying the association, when you are studying the dependence, that can be termed as bivariate analysis. Some of the common tools and techniques used are t-test, correlation, simple regression, paired t-test, chi-square test, so on and so forth. So the name itself suggests bivariate. Two variables are involved, and we will try to study the relationship among them, right? The relationship can be of any sort, maybe relating to dependence or simple relationship, or whether if it is a kind of a phenomena, social phenomena, what is their association, like that. Now coming to the third level, multivariate analysis. Again, as the topic goes, social science, as I told you, very difficult that certain variables act in isolation. Definitely there will be a plethora of variables. They are they act, they react with each other, and when we go in depth, and we study them in group, that can be termed as multivariate analysis. Here we try to predict, we try to study the interdependence among the variables, like that. For example, multiple regression can be used to predict the data. For example, there might be to study a kind of linear relationship. See, analysis can be looked from different angles. Another way can be linear and non-linear relationship and all those things. So it depends on the data. But when I'm here trying to give the various categories based on number of variables. So, for example, multiple regression. When you are studying, various independent variables will be there. What will be their impact on the dependent variable? Partial or multiple correlation, very interesting. Factor analysis, when we try to reduce the different a number of variables into meaningful factors, factor analysis is used. Cluster analysis, when we try to identify the respondents into some common characteristics. Cluster analysis. Multi-dimensional scaling, or based on certain dimensions, when we try to develop a scale and put certain respondents based on that, multi-dimensional scaling. Conjoint analysis, so the list goes on. Canonical correlation, and nowadays darling of all the PhD students, structural equation modeling. We will see further its uses and abuses of SEM in the coming slides, right? So these are all multivariate analysis because a number of variables are used, and we try to study some sort of dependence or independence or interdependence, or we try to predict. That can be termed as multivariate analysis, right? Now, why part of it? We saw first what part of it, then we saw how part of it in this slide. The subsequent question comes, why? Why statistics? Of course, if you use statistics in your work, obviously it gives a kind of mechanism to verify. So it gives a kind of verifiability. For example, there is a very famous example in that statistics book, dealing with chi-square. There are 5 days, and on those days, certain accidents took place. So can we say that the number of accidents are associated with the particular day? Is a particular day more, unauspicious or auspicious or something like that? Very easy to, jump to conclusion. But if we use the statistical analysis, it gives us a kind of a mechanism to verify our claim. So obviously, why part of statistics is it helps us in verifying. the facts. Believability. People will believe your assertion more if you use what we say statistical, if it is backed, supplemented by your statistical work. Of course, justifiable. You can also justify. You can be sure that whatever assertion you are making is quite convincing. Dependability. You can depend on that. For example, in a given particular atmosphere, if you apply in the same atmosphere, obviously the result would have been the same. To some extent, you can be dependable. Of course, replicability. You can even copying will be a kind of a negative term. You can also apply the same thing in a different atmosphere, or you can check how the variables work in that particular thing. Do they work in the same way? Replicability means again you are able to use it in the similar fashion. The results will be the same, right? Of course. And then the modern thing is applicability. If you can prove something by statistics, for example, the latest our example is this COVID vaccine. Statistically, they have tried to prove, and now they are applying that particular thing in the practical sphere, right? So if there is a statistics, you can be sure of applying that particular thing, right? So straight away, I will jump now to pitfalls to be avoided. Yeah, statistics is wonderful. Just now when I said why part of it, it really makes us to use statistically, to prove our point statistically. But certain pitfalls to be avoided. Okay, when you are applying certain statistical tools or when you are applying the statistics. The first one is unwarranted conclusions. I remember the recent Viva. I think Dr. VN asked one question that I think fall under that category of unwarranted conclusion. The topic was concerned or connected to urban landscape, and the researcher was concluding about the rural landscape. So these things can be avoided. Generally, in our enthusiasm, the students, they try to prove their point and they go beyond the line. So pitfalls to be avoided. Number one, unwarranted conclusions can be avoided. Stick to your work, stick to your analysis. Based on your analysis only, your inference should be. Okay, it cannot be in general. So unwarranted conclusions, sometimes it pushes us to go for that. Unfair comparison, right? Of course, sometimes it is very hilarious. For example, right? I remember one example is was given in one book which I referred during my college days. One person applied the correlation between the size of the shoe of the father and the IQ level of the son. Now it is unfair comparison and nonsensical kind of. The author termed it as nonsense correlation. Right? So unfair, sometimes we do such comparison. There must be a backing. There must be a base when we compare something. Okay. I can give one more. Somewhere I came across one story. So statistics sometimes gives a kind of false impression. Don't worry, I'm not against statistics. Rather, I love statistics. But I am against the unmindful use of statistics. I will give a story. I hope the students will... those who are students in this webinar will enjoy this. I do not know how far it is true, but I heard this relating to statistics. There was a big statistician some 100 years back in Europe or somewhere, and he was crossing a river, it seems. So what he did, he was carrying all these big scales and all. During those days, no SPSS and all. So he was crossing the river along with his wife and 3 kids. So what happened while crossing? Okay. So what happened during that crossing of the river? He had 3 kids. One was around 1 feet. Another kid was 2 feet of height. And the third kid was around 3 feet of height. So, of course, generally the girls or ladies are clever. She told that be careful while crossing. We have young ones with us. He said, don't worry, I'm a great statistician. And he took out all his scales and all, and he took a sample of 5. Depth, he measured the depth of the river. Like at one point, he said it is only 1 feet. At another point, about 5 feet. So he calculated the average and he said, don't worry, it is only 0.8 feet. And even our youngest child is only 1 feet, around 1.5 feet, like that. So you don't worry, we will be able to cross. So by the time when he crossed the river, 1 or 2 of his childs were missing. Because averages sometimes will be misleading. Okay, it was perfectly fine. He took the sample of that river at some 10 places. He calculated the average and he said the average of my samples are lesser than the average height of my kids. So we can easily cross the river. So that is again the correlation or causation. The third thing is we cannot conclude. Correlation does not mean causation. I came across one quotation about correlation, that this is the basic teaching of correlation or statistics, that correlation is not causation. But what students generally forget, this is the first thing the researcher forget. So first thing is taught, in research is correlation is not causation. But first thing to be forgotten by the researcher is the same thing, correlation is not causation, right? When 2 variables are correlated, it does not mean if X and Y is correlated, it does not mean X lead to Y or Y leads to X. There might be another variable that is working in tandem with them, or maybe we as a scientist or as a researcher, we cannot say, but we cannot conclude just based on correlation that X leads to Y. We can only conclude that they are moving together. For example, if 2 people are moving closely on road, we cannot say they are related. They may be stranger to each other just because they are at a proximity. We cannot say that they are relatives of each other or something like that. So another pitfall generally the researchers deal with is this correlation and causation. Then of course sampling issues. I remember in one of the vivas the candidate was stressing and rather confused between convenience sampling and random sampling. So most of the researchers, they need to concentrate on the philosophy or this approach towards sampling. Most, I bet 40% at least in a kind of rough estimate of the researcher do not know that they think convenience sampling is random sampling. So that itself shows that requires some training when it comes to sampling issues. For example, most of them do not know what is the difference between quota sampling and stratified sampling, because both sound similar. So like that, some training with respect to sampling is needed if you want to be a real, or if one wants to be into the, want to make a mark in this particular concept of research, social research. Then, used extensively to cover flaws in methodology. Many a times we see, I remember Dr. D. Amarchand once came for our function. When we were discussing, he was telling me that nowadays candidates, PhD candidates, they use a lot of statistics in order to cover the flaw in their methodology. Because they are not clear with methodology, they use statistics in order to confuse the audience. Okay, because none of them will be knowing the sigma and equation and all those things. A normal individual may not know. And they themselves do not know. That's a different issue. We'll come to that later. So that should not be a cover to your weak methodology. Statistics cannot be a cover to your weak or flawed methodology. So researchers should be clear, when it comes to methodology part of their research. Fallacy of model building. Yes. Nowadays, invariably, every PhD thesis, if you see, there will be a model building. Without understanding how difficult it is to create a model, or rather how difficult it is to prove a model that your model is effective or proper. Because forget about the assumptions and all those part. When you are saying a model, you mean to say the variables are acting in this direction. X, Y, Z lead to P, P may lead, P is correlated with Q, and Q will lead to A. In real life, is it so? So be careful before giving any complicated models. I have seen very complicated models. I wonder, once the more complicated the model, the more minute its application becomes, because then it has to work in that particular specific environment only. Otherwise, the model may not hold good. So this fallacy of model building, everybody wants to build a model. So many models have been built, but I do not know how far they are practically applicable or useful. Right? So model, try to avoid, of course, I'm not saying nothing wrong in building a model, but you should be able to justify the model. Model building is not about just giving a structure of certain interrelated variables or some causation, some regression, some AMOS, like that, using that, and that is your model. So please, students should be a bit careful before going into the concept of this model building. Now, getting overwhelmed by reputation of method rather than relevance. Yeah, even MCOM students, they know, second MCOM students, many of them, they asked me even this year, just because we do have, and I took a research methodology for them, sir, which method is good, sir? Which analysis we can apply so that it will look good, our work. So overwhelmed by the, this analysis rather than its relevance. I tell my students, they might be knowing while taking research methodology, mean can be a wonderful analysis. Standard deviation can bring wonders to your analysis. So don't think only structural equation modeling, canonical correlation, conjoint analysis, multi-dimensional scaling you have to adopt in order to make something worthwhile. I'm talking about worthwhile. So even mean, what is mean? Mean is just how beautiful it is. Just one number represents the entire group. So what is the application of mean? Just one number, when we say, it represents the entire group. That's the beauty of mean. Standard deviation, what does it say? Just one number will talk about the variability of the entire distribution. And that is the base for the stock exchange, this analysis, standard deviation, beta, right? So wonderful, but don't get overwhelmed by the reputation of these methods, statistical methods. Rather go for relevance. That is my suggestion. Of course, if you are confident, if it is, I'm not against these methods and all. Rather, I love statistics. Again and again, let me tell you, I enjoy dealing with statistics, but not unmindful application of statistical tools. Right? Next one. Ignoring critical assumptions. Yes. How many of you know that when you apply for factor analysis, certain assumptions to be met? When you go for regression model, certain assumptions to be met. If your assumptions are not met, your model is as good as zero. For example, not just normality of data and all those things, even heterogeneity among the variables. And I don't want to be technical, as I promised, but there are certain assumptions. That's why I said don't carry it away by the models. When you go for model, you need to check, for example, SEM, when they go, how many of them check for moderation effect? How many have checked the model for the mediating effect? So many things are there. So when you ignore the assumption, the model is as good as zero, right? So one needs to be careful with respect to the assumption and make sure all those assumptions are met. Otherwise, there are other methods. You can adopt that, non-parametric methods, and you can prove your point or disapprove your point, whatever. Of course, it's not in your hand, the outcome, obviously. Next one. Lack of understanding of measures used, right? As I told, many of the people use certain statistical tools without using any logic, or they do not know why they are using. Somebody suggested, they are using it. For example, I remember in one Viva, I asked, the person adopted ANOVA in order to compare two means. I asked him, why didn't you apply t-test, two related t-test, two sample t-test? Why did you adopt ANOVA? No answer, because they do not know when the ANOVA is applicable, when this t-test is applicable. So please have an understanding, basic understanding about its application part rather than simply, proceeding with the particular method. Next one, emphasis on packages. Yes, nowadays, I remember somebody told me, one of my colleagues, PLS, now the latest in thing. It started in 90s with SPSS, then certain other methods like Statistica, MATLAB, whatnot, then AMOS, now PLS, now this R, Jamovi, of course, our own old Excel, and the list is big. I think SAS is another one software. So the list goes on. Don't get carried away. Really, I'm not joking. One of my colleagues told me that when I said that there's some AMOS or something, I discussed with him the model. He said, no, that is now outdated AMOS and all. Now the in thing is PLS. I said, how does it matter? PLS also does the same thing. AMOS also does the same thing. Provided, of course, PLS is a bit advanced than AMOS. It goes beyond that. But it is not the package that matters. Even manually you can do. It doesn't matter. But this love for packages sometimes take you, it goes too far. So one needs to be a bit careful about that. Next one, loopholes in experimentation. Yeah, very rarely we go for experimentation in social science. But if we are going, one should be very careful that the environment in which we are pursuing that particular thing, it meets the required standards. So double careful while doing certain experimentations. Next one, judgment of researcher is critical. Yeah, it doesn't matter. The statistical package will give the answer or the thing. It is the judgment, as I told you, which tool to be used. For example, I hate to use that quote by somebody. I do not know. Some say it was Bernard Shaw. Some say it is some other USA president. I am not sure. Somebody said there are only 3 types of lies. Lies, damn lies, and statistics. I hate to use this quote because I love statistics, but anyway. So please use your judgment while using these statistical analysis. Next one, too much dependence on, sorry, the spelling, there is some mistake, statistician. Okay, so of course, statisticians, you need to, as a researcher, one needs to talk to many people. It will open your eyes, it will give new exposure, meet as many people as possible, even talk to statistician, everybody. But don't try to be too dependent on statistician. Because statistician is ultimately is your helper. You have to understand and you have to do certain things. You need to understand in order to move forward. So too much nowadays, dependence can be avoided. Rather, you can discuss with them. You can get your doubts clarified. But avoid outsourcing your work. Okay. Now, certain interesting quotes, don't worry, I have come almost to my end of the slides. Don't worry. So hardly 7 or 8 slides. Okay. So interesting quotes that will summarize this phenomena, what is happening of statistics. I think Albert Einstein, he gave this wonderful quote. Everything that can be counted does not necessarily counts. And everything counts cannot necessarily be counted. Okay. So this perfectly synergizes about qualitative and quantitative research. So don't think that always quantitative research is wonderful. Sometimes even qualitative research will be great. I think I was discussing with Dr. RS about those research designs. Even I would have loved to do, but okay, no, I thought that this will be a better eye opener for the students. Maybe some other day, some other time. So qualitative analysis, it's a perfect justifying that particular thing. So what does it say? Everything that can be counted need not necessarily counts, need not be important. Don't count everything, nonsense things, need not apply statistics in nonsense things. And there are certain things that may be difficult to count, but they may be really, really important for that particular domain. So that summarizes all exploratory research, descriptive research, experimental research in one beautiful quote. I love this quote rather. Okay, wonderful quote. Second one, you can fix by analysis what you bungled by design. So this again, as I told you, in order to cover the flaws of a methodology, sometimes people use statistics and that can be avoided. So this is again a very interesting definition, quotation is given, that you can fix by analysis what you bungled by design, right? Next one, the last one. Most people use statistics like lamppost. Sorry, there was a spelling thing, lamppost, because I came just now running, so I prepared some of these slides. So lamppost, there is a corrected lamppost, more for support rather than illumination. So again, it beautifully talks about the certain people, how do they view statistics. Lamppost, they use it, for support. I put certain ... you find out what was given. I thought I will not be using in this academic thing that particular word. So most people use statistics for, like a lamppost, more for support rather than illumination. So they use statistics as a support, not for illumination, not to bring some bright or light into their work, rather just as a supporting tool that can be avoided. So I thought these three definitions summarizes how a student should look, statistics in the present scheme of things, right? Almost I am at the end of the thing. I'll just check. So this is just my take on this. Statistical analysis is complementary to the entire process of research. A wonderful tool if used accordingly, but cannot be a substitute to individual judgment and creativity. So it really complements. Remember, it is not research. Analysis complements the entire process. If you use it in a proper way, it is wonderful. It will add to the value of your work. Otherwise, it is just mere number that may not take you too far, right? So I think that's enough, and I hope I have not bored the students also who are dealing. So thank you again. Once again, I thank all the organizers, my secretary, my principal, my HOD, my students with whom I learned over a period of time by discussing with them. Right? Thank you. Anything, any interaction, anything wrong in my presentation, please, students.
Sir, excellent presentation, sir. I enjoyed every bit of your discussion. I personally feel sometimes commerce teachers are not handling few statistics paper. As a result, which is taught in isolation, like a mathematics paper, and the students are not able to understand the relevance or importance of statistics in social science research. Then I used to, while teaching about range, I used to give them information, some basic examples like range, climate range, speed range when you're riding your vehicle in Chennai city kind of. So that can also be one of the application of that particular thing. So if a commerce teacher or a person who's involved in research, if they can handle few papers in statistics, that will help them to understand the application of that, and they'll be able to view the subject in a better manner than having a phobia for maths or numbers or misusing or and another one, sir. Yeah.
Sorry to disturb your flow.
Yes,
actually,
sir.
Today I do not. I am still a student in statistics and research. But today, if I know something, I'm just supplementing what you said, because of my teachers who gave me earlier statistics. Yes. Because when we came earlier, we were like, a newcomer in a cricket match. How does it happen? Generally, the short leg will be a place for the newcomer in a cricket match. So when I came earlier, so statistics, everybody wanted to take accounts or this and that. So my teacher at that time, HOD, he gave me just 2-3 hours of statistics. Really, it opened my eyes, or it really changed the way I look at certain things. So I'm just taking it forward what you said. Sorry, yeah, you can continue.
Sir, excellent, sir. That's what, sir. Sometimes the students are not able to understand the practical application of what they are learning. So they are viewing statistics as a number-based paper, or some mathematics which is no way connected with social science research, or like how you mentioned about using mean or median as a important tool for analysis. Even that they are not able to think So their thinking process is entirely different from what they are. They may be getting center in statistics, but they are not able to apply the concept of what they have learned in research or whatever may be their area of usage of that particular learning.
Most of them don't know the difference between mean, median, and mode. Simple. PhD researchers, you ask them the difference. Most of them may not know. But anyway, okay, it will be too far then. Okay.
Excellent session, sir. Now it is open to the students for discussion. I'll appreciate if students can interact with the resource person.
Students always in class, they keep on. Yeah, carry on. Anybody?
Sir, your scholars are there.
Yeah, don't worry. This is not class where the students switch off the mic and video and they simply keep quiet. You know, you can discuss if anything.
Sir, there is a question in the chat box. Someone has raised some basic question.
What is a statistical analysis? Yeah, application of statistical tools and methods, using the data or numbers can be termed, I don't know, I'm not referring any definition and all. I hope that can be termed as statistical analysis, using the numbers, as I told you, in a systematic, using some formula or something, so that we get some conclusion out of that number. Out of that raw data, we try to get some meaning. I hope that is the purpose of statistical analysis.
Anyone else? To add value to sir's presentation, something like if you want to comment on Chennai's climate, you can refer last 10 years climate information, and based on the minimum or the maximum range, you can comment on the climate of Chennai. So to comment on something, you have some numbers based on which you are drawing your conclusion. So you can use.
One more question has come on the chat box. Sir, the question is, which method will be perfect for the research?
Just now I told you, it depends on the objective and the nature of data. Exactly. Suppose you want to see the difference between two means. T-test is wonderful. Because I raised one question in my presentation, I'm giving the answer to that same question. More than two means, ANOVA will be useful. So number one, it depends on your objective. Number two, it depends on the nature of data. For example, if the data is nominal, you cannot apply certain multivariate statistical tools, even though you may be a fan of that particular tool. So it depends on your objective. What do you want to do? What do you want to prove? You want to study relationship, correlation, dependence, regression, interdependence, factor and cluster, like that. Number one, objective. Number two, nature of data. What kind of data is you want to analyze? Nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio. Accordingly, you have to use that particular tool.
Sir, I have a general question.
Oh,
this is Dr. VN. Sir, I started loving numbers only after interacting with my professor, who is my PhD scholar, who is my PhD guide. And I'm really lucky to get some good insights from my professor. But general, as RS member was also saying, this commerce people, somehow they stand out of, they stand a little far away from statistics. They don't show that interest like they show it in accounts or FM or any other accounting papers. Now, what makes them to stand out? And if you want to give an introduction session, like where do they start from?
Yeah, before giving my thing, let me tell the students, Dr. VN's guide is Dr. Arul Alan, a wonderful person, wonderful human being. I know him from Guru Nanak College. Wonderful person, now retired. Of course, he had a grip over statistics. I remember during my early days, I used to talk to him. He may not be remembering me. Vivek Yadav joke, I know him, but he may not know. I do not know. He might be knowing. I have met him many a times, but of course, he meets many people. So, but wonderful person. and he had a close relationship with our college. So first, let me give that tribute to his guide. Okay. Then the second thing, as he said, regarding that, why there is an aversion. As there was an answer in your question, sir, the guide number one. I hope your guide made you to learn. My guide made me to learn. Of course, there must be some insight, basic foundation, but apart from that, and when we can deal with accounts, I don't think why should we be afraid of numbers or something. For example, initial even, and that's it only in mind. That I think that a kind of restriction is in there only in our minds. Otherwise, if the guide can push a little bit, of course, you will be on the top, even beyond your guide. One can be.
Yes.
I hope I answered. I do not know further. You can clarify, sir, because
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, now if you want to give a basic suggestion, like for people who are going to take up their PhD after this MCOM, where should they start from? What should be their starting point in learning statistics?
go for the basics. For example, I told you mean, median, mode.
Yes.
Of course, you people know, my colleagues, I am not telling you. Students will be astonished going, if they go minutely. Generally, okay, centrality, all are saying center. Let us move on, mean, median, mode. Mean has its own significance. Median has its own significance. Mode has got its own significance. Standard deviation is different from CV, coefficient of variation, even though they are in the same family. So once you start with the basics, fundamental, don't go straight away, cluster analysis, factor, you will get bogged down. So let us start with mean, and one more thing, don't simply depend on packages. Try to know the calculation part. Today, I can do up to multiple regression by hand, I can do. But straight away, if you depend on the software and all, I think that makes bit, then you become a kind of handicap and you do not know why it has been done. For my guide made me, for example, so I'm not joking, multiple regression, partial correlation, I can calculate by hand up to that. Of course, cluster and all I cannot do. Even to some extent, alphas, that thing I can do, reliability and all, because it's nothing but correlation. But it becomes a bit tedious. So know the philosophy behind that test. Okay, I hope that is the thing. Others may throw some more light. I don't know.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, there is a
got some more
question
questions.
Shivam Dubey. He would like to learn more about conjoint analysis. He is requesting you to give a brief on conjoint analysis, sir.
Yeah, conjoint analysis talks about the utility of certain products, right? For example, if I'm right, I can give this example. Or I do not know whether this will hold good. Yeah. Where there are certain, there is a phenomena that has certain qualities. So based on that quality, when you try to, come to a conclusion, which utility is ultimate. This conjoint analysis mostly used in B2B marketing, business to business. For example, a company manufactures certain machinery. He sells that machinery to another company that in needs of machinery. So he will explain, sir, price or factor, utility or factor, current consumption or factor. Like that, he will divide and then he will try to judge which combination of utility is the best for the consumer. And based on that, they will manufacture their product. So conjoint analysis is a kind of utility analysis whereby using the statistics, you will try to analyze which combination of utility will be the best. For example, somebody will say, for example, Mercedes-Benz. What is the utility? Of course, the showing off. So what the people will say, I don't mind even paying high price, but I want to show the look should be good. So utility, it helps again further in clustering the consumers. So see, don't think it just, you can use only one statistical tool. One tool can lead to another tool. For example, factor analysis, if you get certain factors, the same factor you can convert into a variable and move further. So in structural equation modeling, from regression, you move on to the next level. So rather, I have deviated a bit. Conjoint analysis in simple, if you want to know, it is a kind of utility analysis. It is used to analyze the utility or certain characteristics of a product. I hope I have answered it in a simple way.
Thank you, sir. There's one more question from Ms. Anita. It is on how to choose the right sampling method for our research.
See, it is a common sense. Again, I do not know. For example, if population is huge, it is undefined. Of course, you need to go with certain sampling. For example, convenience sampling. But you can use that convenience sampling in a rational way. You can select the samples in a rational way. Suppose you know the population is small. Why can't you go for certain other, random sampling or something like that? Suppose there are groups in certain, population. You can use quota or all stratified sampling. There is a difference between the two, but anyway. So depending upon your population, depending upon the analysis, or again objective, it boils down to objective. Depending upon that, suppose if it is an experimental thing, if it is a qualitative research, depending upon, in qualitative research, even a sample of 40 will be great. But of course, in quantitative, sometimes even 700 may not be enough. So depending upon the population, depending upon your objective, the nature, characteristics of the population, one can use the sampling, and nothing is bad. Take it from me. Generally, people say convenience sampling. I do not know. I would love to argue with them. Even I tell in class, if you use rationally convenience sampling, it's fine. It is only when you start using it irrationally, just for the sake of convenience, don't use convenience sampling. If there is a rationale behind using convenience sampling, use it. Nothing wrong. You can argue. Nothing wrong. I tell my, even in class while taking research methodology, nothing wrong. But you can justify, you can rationalize, give logic. But because it is convenient to me, don't say a convenience sample. Right?
Sir, there is one more question on, is non-probability sampling gives objectivity in research?
Non-probability sampling. Okay. Judgment sampling, convenience sampling, these are all termed as quota sampling, as non-probability sampling. Right. Sometimes it is good. See, these are all methods. Each method has its own utility. For example, I tell the students, I do not know, Dubey might be knowing, in his class, I would have told this. Okay. For example, children behavior in classroom, KG kids, how do they behave? Now, what will you do? Will you give a questionnaire to the kids? They will tear away and throw away. Will you send a Google link to them? Obviously, you have to go for judgment sampling. Go to their teachers, go to their parents and ask them. Depending upon the objective, what you want to ask, don't say what to ask, sir. Depending upon your objective, what do you want to study about those kids? Ask teachers. Teachers are the best people who can judge the kids, especially school teachers. I do not know about college teachers, but school teachers, they are the best to judge. So like that, here, what is this? Judgment sampling, isn't it? Or for example, some psychological issues somebody is having. Will you go to that person who is having that psychological issue and give him? Will he able to give the proper answer? Go to the doctor, he treats those people. Talk to them, they will be in a better position. Judgment sampling. And so just maybe my examples are a bit vague, but if you understand the concept behind them, even non-probability sampling, nothing wrong with that. I feel if you can again rationalize, and there is no other way to do. If you can justify that, it's great. Okay,
Yes, sir. Something like sampling.
I'm not taking too much of time, I hope.
Okay. I just wanted to add, ma'am, any other questions? Because I wanted to add one more point to Dr. HTS on this non-probability.
So please proceed, sir.
Okay. This is the, majority of the people, they ask this question, why to have non-random sampling? Because it will be more biased. It will be, the objectivity will be affected. Definitely no. Because if you consider random sampling, can you ensure that the objectivity can be achieved? No, it is not necessarily. because the representativeness is much more important rather than what method you choose.
Right.
And the random sampling can be done provided only when you know the population size. When your population size is unknown or infinite, then you can never go for probability sampling. Let's say majority of the PhD people, they do some stress management on IT employees. Do we have enough data? Like, what is the population size of the IT people in Chennai? We don't have it. And they say that random sampling method have been used. What kind of random sampling? Because when we do not know what is the sample, the population size, I'm sorry, when we do not know the population, then how can we go for this is the sample that I'm going to take about it, right? So I think the representativeness is very much important, be it random or non-random. Thank you, sir.
And it should correlate with your objective, like what you are doing. It should help you
Exactly,
out in
sir.
that. Right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any other question? Okay. If there are no questions, sir, excellent session. Today we had excellent discussion from audience also. Audience, for your kind information, feedback link is posted in the group. You can fill in the feedback. As a formality, to wind up the session, I request Anchal to propose vote of thanks formally. Anchal, over to you, ma.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. A very good evening to one and all gathered here. Once a great man whispered that feeling thankfulness and not expressing it is just like wrapping a present and not giving. Today, I take the opportunity to propose vote of thanks and put all my gratitude into words. And really, it's my privilege to propose vote of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of all those who have really worked hard to make the session happen. I thank our beloved secretary, Sri Ashok Raj, and our principal, Dr. Captain S. Santosh Babu sir, for giving us an opportunity to organize a learning sharing session of this kind. I would like to place off my sincere thanks to the head of department, Dr. J. Jayasankar sir, for providing us the right direction to organize the session. I also extend my thanks to Dr. Haridayal Sharma sir, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce, for such an excellent session and inspiring us on the relevance of statistical analysis and research in a simple and easy way to understand and apply it. Sir, indeed, your session has enlightened budding researchers like us, sir. Thank you so much, sir. My heartfelt thanks to Dr. R. Sundari ma'am and Dr. Vijay Narayan sir, assistant professors from the Department of Commerce, for coordinating this session in a wonderful manner. I also thank my fellow coordinators, Mr. Arvind Kumar, 2nd MCOM, and Mr. Yash Doshi, 1st BCom, for their instant support. I also thank my presence, cooperation, and interest. After all, without this, would have not been possible. Once again, I thank each and every one of you for making this a wonderful one. Thank you so much. A great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Anchal. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shall we wind up?
Sir, 1 second.
Right.